rather than stereotypes. And it's been one of these things where we're just used to talking in a certain way, but and the industry has been doing this for decades. But it, start being aware of that, and you'll get so much more out of the actor, and it's much better as an actor to get more of a specific direction of what you're looking for, which is the human condition, versus giving a generalization of a stereotype. Okay. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Yeah, Gregory.
Uh, sorry. Where's my? So, how do you handle that when you're doing more period pieces when not just our society, but well, yeah, I guess society, people were different then. The expectations for representation was different then. Is that something? How does somebody go about either casting or directing or yeah, something like that?
Well, you can still, yeah, you can still do period pieces, but again, it's being culturally sensitive within the way we discuss it with our actors. Y- it's, for example, if I'm casting something and I'm doing, I don't know, I'm doing something in southern, like a, it's set in southern LA of the 80s, and it's like, oh, I want you. I'm casting an actress, and it's like, oh, I want you to be like a typical blonde, right? That's offensive. Now it's a typical, but we those are the types of examples that have been used for a long time that puts an entire group of people into one shell. And it's like, well, no, no, no. There's, instead of that, it's saying, okay, well, you're very carefree and you're very, you don't like to go by the rules, and you really find the best in life. And you try to find out where's this person really coming from, and what is driving them in that moment. So it doesn't matter if you're doing a period piece based on the Civil War. Find out individually of your characters, what's driving them, where are they coming from. um, and it's okay if, because you got to determine what's their education status, what's their social ability status, their income status, their there's so many things, of when you're developing characters as a writer. We need to really think out all of that, and as a director, and then as an actor. But the more specific we make it, the better it is. And I would avoid general stereotypes. Like I would avoid making a quote unquote dumb character, right? A lot of times we'll do that. Just, it's like, oh, this is the quote unquote idiot of the group, which is, going back to Roman and Greek theater. Uh, Instead, I try to make all of my characters intelligent in something, meaning every single character is smart in something. Just because you're not formally educated, well, you're street smart. You have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of experience doing stuff. Just because you don't speak in a certain way, it doesn't mean you don't speak really well in the way that you do, or there's a reason for it. There's a lot of things I always look at to try to make my characters as intelligent as they can in their environment and realm. And actors love that. Actors do not like playing the victim. Actors don't like playing the character that is, being victimized or anything. You need to, but by looking at it from a different lens, it's like, no, you are super intelligent. You're just not speaking your mind right now, or you're not. Again, you come from an uneducated background, so you speak in a different way, or are you explain things in a different way. So those are ways around it, and those are ways that actually help directing get much more specific, instead of just throwing a general thing, which isn't really going to help an actor, putting him into a general stereotype. So you can still do period pieces, Gregory. I mean, you can still do all of that. Just have sensitivity to it, and who you're working with, and the terminology that you use on set. And the biggest thing is communication. Communication is key. We need to have a strong communication with the actors, with our crew, with everyone that's involved, and just be direct. I know there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and when a lot of times when I'm working with directors, they're just like, "Yeah, but this is I need to talk about this moment in the scene. I just don't know how to bring it up. It's really uncomfortable." And I'm like, "Well, if you come across that it's uncomfortable for you as an actor, it's uncomfortable for me. Just be direct." And that's why I said earlier, make it mechanical. The more direct and uh, very straightforward you are about anything that's happening, even if it's simulated sex in your film, the more it just takes the pressure right off of me as an actor. Because again, it's like, oh, it's like learning a dance step, believe it or not. It's like, okay, I just need to go through these things. I know exactly what is expected of me. It takes me out of this realm of unknown and makes it very known. Oh, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is exactly what we're going to do. And lastly, when you're shooting intimate scenes or scenes that could be vulnerable or uncomfortable on set, do your best to have what I call a closed set, meaning limit the amount of people that are observing. Now, this happens if you have a large crew, of course, but it's very easy to do. You can run Video Village out of the room. I mean, you really have the minimum amount of people in the room with the actors as possible. Don't have a bunch of people watching the screen. The director should be the only one watching the screen, or whomever else you need for uh, the visual creative. So you have your cinematographer, you have you as the director, or maybe someone running audio, and that's it. No one else needs to be involved in those moments. Make it as safe and as comfortable for the actors as possible. Right. And any questions about that?
I have one.
Yeah.
What's the importance? How much importance do you give to table reads as far as preparing for on set?
Incredible importance. The rehearsal process is incredibly important, but I know in film we don't have the same lengthy rehearsal process that we do in theater. The last play I directed, I think I had 42 rehearsals, before we went up. Now, I have to do that because the whole show goes live at once, right? Actors are on stage, there's an audience present, so we have to be very fine tuned. So of course we're going to have more rehearsals instead of doing things moment by moment. But what I can tell you, the further we go through a rehearsal process, the more free the actors become and the more believable the performances are. So even if you can get a handful of rehearsals, I know it's difficult, but even if you do a handful of rehearsals in film, it's beneficial. Table reads are great. The first time you sit around and everyone reads it, hopefully putting something into it, and you, for the first time, hear it out loud. And that's the great moment for creative collaboration, because you as a director are hearing it for the first time, these words spoken off the page with this group of people. It's so incredibly important. Your vision might change. In that moment, your vision could change. Ideas could come up. And that's why I say that's the open mode. Stay open. I know you think you might know what this film is, but all of a sudden you do a table read and something else happens. So that's incredibly important. And then in film, since we can't go through the whole thing, there's just not enough time in rehearsal. Rehearse the critical moments. Rehearse the fight sequences, meaning like you have an emotional argument that you really want. Just bring those actors in one day and rehearse that. If there's any sort of deep emotional moment that you want, a breakdown, rehearse that. Believe it or not, you want to rehearse the emotional moments. And I know there's a lot of theories out there that if we rehearse it, we're not going to have it for set. That's only for the untrained actor. For the trained actor, the more we've rehearsed, the better we become. For the untrained actor, it's the reason why they don't like rehearsal, or there's that theory of not rehearsing, is because they don't have a process. They're actually using real things to get themselves emotional, and that's very dangerous. You want to actually avoid that when you're casting. You want to get people that are trained with a process that can bring themselves through their imagination, bring themselves into this very believable, very powerful performance. Yeah, but I mean, I think rehearsals is key. So again, a handful. You do a table read rehearsal, and then you do a couple rehearsals of anything difficult. You break down those off of your, pretty much your midpoint in your film, your end of act two, possibly even the beginning turn going into act two, right? You have very specific moments in writing where key things happen, and you want those moments to be as strong as you possibly can. So you rehearse those, and then you leave the rest for on set. Yeah. And as an actor, if we rehearse the key moments like that, we're really going to feel good about the rest of it. Because if we know the deepest moments of the character, we can fill in the blanks with the rest of it. So a couple other casting things I want to go over, because it really starts your job as a director, and really as an actor, everything begins with casting. So from the director's side, what I can say is my best advice: do not typecast. Avoid typecasting, which means that, and especially if you're the writer and director, because you've written it, so you already picture these people in your head, and now you're just waiting for that person to walk in. Bad idea. Typecasting means you're going to cast based on how someone looks or how someone talks, but not their actual ability or who they are. Avoid that at all costs. Instead, even if you're the writer of this thing, when you go into casting, open it up. Open up your casting to absolutely anybody you can, unless your script demands that somebody is a certain race, gender, height, age. Open it up the best you can. You know, a lot of times I see in castings, this person's 28. Well, do they need to be 28? Is it important that they're 28, or could they be 25 to 35? I mean, you know, open up your range as much as you can so it still tells the story that you want to tell. And cast the best actors that you can, the ones that have the deepest process. And you'll be able to see this in the casting. But when you cast the best actors, ones that are willing to go there and able to go there, man, you're going to be happy. Every time I give this advice to not typecast, and then someone typecasts, they always come back to me later saying, man, I wish I didn't do that. And sometimes these are on feature films, right? They're putting everything they have into a feature film. And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, I really like this person, right? I'm helping them cast. They're like, I really like, I'm like, no, don't cast that person. They're like, why? They're exactly who I want. And I'm like, that's why you don't cast them. Never cast the actor who is the character. Duh. Especially if it's an antagonist. And that's what people have done over and over. Meaning that there was this one film that was done, and the lead character was just a real arrogant, pompous type of misogynistic type of character. You know, young, maybe like 30 or something, like it was the older brother of something, and just really was just like, you know, not a nice person, a jerk. And so in the casting, I was leaning towards other people that were really strong actors and that could get to that point, but they weren't that way in real life. And a director went toward an actor that came in that was the person. And because that you walk into the room and it's casting and it's like, wow, that's exactly who this character is. I'm like, my God, do not do that, because there's not going to be an off button. You're not going to be able to collaborate. This person is your antagonist. The last thing you want to do is creatively collaborate with the antagonist, with the actual antagonist. Don't do that. You want an actor that is really humble and nice and really easy to get along with, fun to be around, that can turn it on and snap into that, right? That can step into this amazing antagonistic life. So be very, very careful. Do not typecast. When you cast the better actors, you're going to get the better performance. It's going to be more believable, and you're going to have a better film every single time. So, yeah, Jason, I remember we had some conversations during your casting, Jason. But it ended up really well. I mean, I love what you ended up with. So, the next thing is in casting. As a director, don't expect actors to come in and quote unquote nail it or get it right. A lot of times there's a misconception that we're looking for someone to come in and give me what I'm looking for. And this happens a lot on the independent level. And an audition is not for that. It's not for the actor to come in and get it right or show you exactly what you're looking for. It's for you to evaluate talent and see, what is this actor capable of? And do you like them, either their essence? Do you like them possibly as a character? But more importantly, do you like them as a person? Believe it or not, it's more important for you to like your actors as people, meaning just in the real world. Can you get along with them? Do you like who they are? Do you like how they make you feel? That is more important than what they can do in the role on the camera, because you spend much more time outside of filming than inside of filming. And so it's critical that you can direct them, give them adjustments, and again, collaborate with them. So take that into account. And never look for, so an actor may come into an audition and give you a completely different direction. That's okay. That's okay. In a callback, we can bring an actor back in and direct them back where we want. In the first cold read audition, just look for signs of life. Do you like how this person feels? Do you like how they present themselves? Do you like how they conduct themselves in the room? So forth. Yeah, Gary.
One thing on the last short that I did, which is a micro short, I was casting for a very specific look for a person.
Okay.
To try and keep like the casting, and man, it was somebody who was not anything what I was looking for. Like he still auditions like, hey, I'm not this. I was trying to do African American. The guy was a Puerto Rican guy, and he's like, I still want to audition for it. So he sent it in, and he was the best person for it.
Mm.
And a lot of that was because like he's like, he took that step forward and said like, hey, I'm gonna go and try for this, and he was the best one for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you ended up going with that person for your film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And, and sometimes we're just blinded. Sometimes we have it in our head creatively who this character is, what they look like, what they sound like. And so we have a resistance to other types. But really, when you find someone when you open that range and you let other people audition, sometimes you just find a gem that you've never thought of before, but like, wow, that works so much better. So I'm glad you had that experience. So my next thing is hold a callback. Make sure you actually have a callback. In the student world, they push back on this saying, well, we don't have enough time. I'm like, man, you have an entire semester, make time. In the independent world, you're setting your own schedule, make time, have a callback. Unless you're doing like a 48-hour film project, have an initial audition, bring that down to a smaller group of people, and then have the callback. The reason is that your callback is a test rehearsal session. That's when you want to bring actors in and work with them for about 30 minutes or even longer a piece, or maybe even mixing and matching actors together. But you want to treat it like, okay, today's either a rehearsal or today's the first day on set. Can I get you where I need to get you? Are you directable? How is our working environment together? Am I seeing that I can mold you into a certain direction? And that's really what as an actor that works the best, and as a director, that's essential. Don't rush into casting. Someone in a first audition can make something look great, and maybe it was a good audition, but then you get them into a callback and you realize, oh, but they can't do the deeper stuff that I want them to do. So this is essential, because this is the one area, I know there's other areas where we can debate, but this is the one area you can't fix in post. You can't fix this. So it's once you cast them, unless you go back and recast and reshoot, you can't fix this, right? You pull it Back to the Future and you replace Eric Stoltz with Fox. You can't do that. And as I've said earlier, cast the entire person. Don't just cast the character you're looking for. Make sure you're casting the person behind it. Cast someone that has a strong work ethic. Cast someone that has training under their belt. Cast someone that has a good attitude and has strong integrity. When you surround yourself with good people, with strong work ethics, magic can happen. I can tell you that. So real quick, because I know we're almost there, but I just want to go over a couple of things. So from the acting side, because this is going to be important for both directors and actors. As an actor, we have to understand that when we go into a first audition, there is no right. So for us, it's when an actor comes in, so when I'm auditioning something, when I see an actor trying to give me what they think I want, it's flat, it's lifeless, it's not interesting. I want an actor that's willing to walk into the room to an audition and willing to just let go of any preconception they have and just live in that moment. Show me something authentic. That's what I look for. So as an actor, we have to let go of this idea that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. So just like the director needs to let go that there should be a right way or a wrong way the actor should do it, as an actor, we need to let go of those philosophies as well. Also, as an actor, it's not about the lines. It is not about the lines. It's about the life underneath it. Now, this does not give an actor at all any freedom to ad-lib your lines. Do not ad-lib your lines. They're written specifically, and they are written for, a writer put a lot of thought and effort and time into this. These are the lines we use. But you're holding the page in an audition. It's right there for you. So now the job is, and what I look for in an actor, are they putting emphasis on the words? Are they spending a lot of time down here looking at the script? Or are they up here present with the reader? Are they really focused on the life? Are they really listening to what's being said to them? Or are they just doing your turn, my turn? That tells me a lot about the actor, because it tells me whether their focus is on the lines or the life. And it's not about the lines. It's about the life and what makes the lines important to say right now. That's what acting is. It's what we call subtext. It's the life underneath it. It's not about what I say. It's about why I say it. What's the intention underneath it? Where as directors, that's where you're going to get into directing, is direct the intention, not the words. In intention, what I mean is, what am I trying to do with another person? As people, we're always trying to change somebody. Always. We're always trying to get someone on our side. We're always trying to change someone's opinion about something, or we're trying to change them completely. It's always about change. Our characters are always about change and influence. So what do I need from my partner right now? So as a director, you can say, okay, well, you really need them to be on your side about this. So get them to listen to you. Get them to really understand your point of view, which is an outward thing. So as a director, we can give this outward direction. And as an actor, I could really do that and put my focus on the life and not the lines. As actors, and this is something as directors should be looking for, that actors make important choices. There's not an unimportant scene in a film. So as an editor, right, I do a lot of editing. And as an editor, I will take out any moment that doesn't need to be there. Sometimes directors aren't happy with me when I'm editing their film, and I do that. But it's like, it doesn't, it's like here's this 8-minute scene that I cut down to 4 minutes because I did not need the other 4 minutes. I told the story in 4 minutes. Why do I need to tell it in 8? So, and this happens a lot from the directing side and the acting side, making something unimportant. Every moment in a film is important in these characters' lives. In some way, it's important. It doesn't mean it's extreme or it's emotional, but it's important. So we need to figure out, from the acting standpoint, we need to figure out why every single moment is vitally important in this story. Otherwise, it doesn't need to be there. As a director, you need to figure out why every single moment is vitally important and push your actors, encourage and direct your actors into that importance. And the more important we make it, the better it is. Every moment is important. And lastly, for actors, have fun. My God, have fun. Too many times we go into auditions and it's like we're being led down death row or something. It's like, have fun. We got into this because we love to perform. We love acting. We love creating. And, a single audition is not going to be the death of you as an actor. Nothing bad is going to come after one audition. I don't care what it's for. So when you go in and just have a great time performing in front of others, have a great time just creating a character and showcasing that. The more you can do that, the better it is. And for a director, you want to look for actors that are more free in that, because the actors that understand how to have a little more fun and are more creatively free are ones that have been doing it longer and have a process behind them. So that's very important as well. Okay, so what questions do you have? I know I covered a lot of different areas and different ground, but what questions do you have? And it could be about anything across the board. Yeah, Bria.
So when you're on set and you've gone through a few takes already, and
Mhm.
maybe the actor's struggling with it, you've already gone through rehearsal, you've had your discussion, and then the camera turns on, it's go time, a few takes roll by, and it's just the take is just not hitting. They just can't get it. Or do you have any tips or tricks, or like pull them aside, any keywords to kind of give them to come back into the moment and really nail the take to finally get it done?
Yeah. So a lot of times, depending on what it is, let's say it's an argument scene. My keywords that I say is, I need you to fight harder, fight like your life depends on it. I use those words a lot, right? So fight harder, fight harder, fight harder. And they won't do it. Okay, no, fight harder, do it again. Now, a trick that you can do, and we have the great ability to do this in the digital world, roll the camera, keep it rolling, and do a rolling take. Meaning don't cut and stop between each one. Do a rolling succession of takes where you walk the actor through it. The moment they get to the end, say, take that and bring it to the beginning. Start over, go.
Okay.
They do it again. No, good. Take that, bring it to the beginning, go. And we try to ramp up their emotion, or ramp up their feelings, ramp up the fight. And I just grab the end of it and say, okay, start there, go. And without the cutting and resetting and all of that, unless you need to, unless there's things that are moved, you can get to a better emotional moment that way.
Cool. Thank you.
Also, when you're casting, so if you know you need an actor to hit an emotional mark, do that in your callback right away. That's the scene you put in your callback. Give the most difficult scene, whether it's emotional, whether it's argumentative, whatever that fight moment is, whatever that thing where they have to go the furthest, that's the scene you use for your callback. See who can really deliver that. Because I don't care if they can deliver everything else, they don't deliver the most important moment you have in your script, it's gonna fall flat.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. So what else? Who else has questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
My question is, so as a director, what does your prep look like when you get the script and you're going into filming? What do you come in with, like the game plan? Like, what does that look like?
So my pre-production process is long. So, and again, of course, it depends on whether you're doing a short or a feature. But I mean, I spend months, sometimes a year or so on pre-production. And that I'm talking a year or so in when I do a feature. But really my prep is, first, I want to understand the script. I mean, inside and out. I want to understand the script. Before I bring anyone on, I need to understand what story I'm telling. And the next thing is, which I think is vitally important, and sometimes we miss this. I need to understand the theme. Meaning, why am I telling this story? Not just what am I telling, not just the plot, because that could be fun and everything else, but why is this story important for an audience member to see? And so I try to determine that before casting, at least in coming up with my own vision. And what I mean by that is I ask myself 3 questions. And these 3 questions are, what do you want the audience to take away from the story? Meaning, after someone watches this, what's the takeaway? Now, the takeaway could simply be entertainment. The takeaway could be, if it's a horror film, they want to give them a good fright or a good scare. It could be a lot of different things. But if it's something that has more of a message to it, or a drama, I want them to take away the concept of good and evil, or I want them to take away the concept of overcoming an obstacle. Whatever it is, but know exactly what the point is of your story. So what do you want the audience to take away from your story? The second is, how do you want the audience to feel at the end? So I always look at the end moment. I always look at the very end moment of my film and say, when it's over, this is what I want to have happen. And then I back up from there. So at the end, do you want them to feel devastated? Is it a tragedy where a main character dies or something doesn't happen? Do you want them to feel hopeful or inspirational? Is it a hero's journey where they overcome and it's celebratory at the end? What do you want that feel to be? And that's very important. And the last question is, what do you want the audience to talk about afterwards? And this I find very important, because if your audience isn't talking about the film afterwards, then maybe it wasn't as important as you think it is. So I want my audiences to be talking about something. Now, it could be talking about this really cool shot that I did. I don't know. It could be talking about a theme. It could be talking about the hero's journey, and wow, did you see how they overcame that? It could be talking about, oh my God, Darth Vader is actually his father. But we need to know what is the thing we want them talking about. All of a sudden, we have these 3 points when we answer those questions for ourselves. And now we have something to drive toward. And that helps me with ideas for cinematography, for the overall feeling of the movie. That helps me in my casting decisions. All of those go into that when I answer those questions as the director. Now, once I get the cast on board, I do this process again with the cast. I'll have a roundtable discussion, typically at the table read, and I'll ask them those questions. I won't give my input because I already know what I think as the director. I'm not trying to influence them, but instead, I want to know now that they've read it and they're involved and they're in these roles, what do they think the answer should be? And I use that as a collaboration point to possibly revise the theme a little bit if I need to, or enhance it. But when you have that, now everything else becomes a little easier. Then I can go into, from there you go into shot lists and production and all sorts of different things, so that every day we know exactly what we need to get. But basically, I'm thinking about my edit when I'm asking these questions. I'm thinking about, what is the feel of this? What do I want? Longer shots that hold or have slight movement to it, or do I want a standard quick, shot, reverse shot? What do I really want to do with this? Because the feel of it, the theme of it, is going to influence that.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer.
No, you're very welcome. Going into an actual production day, I want everything defined. I mean, I'm a big believer in storyboards. I think storyboards are something that are essential to the process. Even if you're the writer, director, producer of what you're doing, the storyboard's not for you, it's for the team. And the storyboard is a great way, and I don't care if they're little things with stick figures, but it's a way of telling everybody this is what we're shooting. It's a way to communicate visuals to a cinematographer. It's a way to communicate visuals and action to an actor. And then when a whole team has storyboards on set, they feel like they're part of the process. What I do when I direct or produce, I will have the storyboards. I will print them out, put them on like a poster board for the day, and I have that at craft services. I have it available so everyone can clearly see this is what we're shooting today. And I do that simply not because they need to know, because they enjoy knowing and they feel like they're part of the overall creative process. So storyboards to me are essential.
Thank
What
you.
else? Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, I have another one.
Sure.
You spoke a bit about callbacks tonight. What should be expected in callbacks? I mean, maybe it's not appropriate for short films as much, but in the old days, they used to do something called screen tests.
Yeah.
How do you feel about doing?
For film, I love screen tests. I mean, when I do a callback for stage, I do a stage test. I mean, meaning I'm looking for the actor's voice. I'm looking for their stage presence. I'm looking for what they look like under lighting. I'll do all that on stage. Film is no different. I want to see what they look like in camera, because what they're doing in front of me live might be brilliant, but I put them in front of the lens and it doesn't translate. So whether you do a screen test as part of your callback process or separate, I tend to do it separate as a second callback. But I will bring the actors in and do a camera test. I'll put them on a very simplistic setup, but I'll put them on a camera. I'll put them in a good lens, a 50 or something, because I want to see what they look like when I get a little closer up to them. And I want to see their ability for stillness. I want to see their ability to handle a close-up. I want to see just how do they handle the camera. Some actors, you put a camera in front of them and they shut down. They have an anxiety with the camera. And so
Right.
you need to know.
I usually would give them like a couple paragraphs or page or whatever of the sides.
Yeah.
As to what I would think is the most important point in the story for that particular character.
Yep.
And have them go through that, because that would tell me if they can, pull it off.
Yeah, and it gives you an idea of what this person's going to look like and represent on film, which is hard to know in the live environment. So I'm a big fan of doing some sort of screen test with the actors. And again, you don't need to go through a whole thing. I mean, just grab a DSLR, grab if you own the camera, great. Just grab something simple, grab something that has some sort of focus to it, and so you can just see what does this person look like in a filmic lens. Yeah. But it's very important. Sometimes you'll be surprised. Sometimes someone that you wouldn't expect to represent themselves much better on camera, they do. They look great on camera. The camera really accentuates the characterization, and other times it flattens it out. So in the only thing that matters is how they look on camera. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, if you can make that part of your process, I would do that. And again, to me, the callback, and even if you're just doing a single callback, and for short films, yeah, still do a callback. But even with one callback, that is to me, it's a test as if you're already working with this actor. So you can do an on-set environment, right? You bring them into a room, and you have a camera set up, you have a mark that they have to hit, or whatever you want to do. And you give them a little bit more dialogue than what they would normally have, or the meatier part of a scene. And how do they deliver that? How do they work on camera? And then can you adjust them, and can they take those adjustments? Yeah, just make it part of that process. What else?
Okay, Marco, follow up.
Sure.
Because I know this has been happening with some of the productions on our sets for OIF. You've worked with, you're the director, you've worked with actors before, with the same actors, similar actors.
Yes.
Would you think it's a mistake to just go ahead and say, okay, you've got this part without going through the process that we talked about?
This is a tough one.
It gets repeated many times.
Well, a lot of times, ultimately as a director, I want to work with actors I trust and that I know that will do a good job. So, it's easy to lean on the actors that you already know. And there's nothing wrong with that if they are actually doing a good job, meaning if they're really giving you the performance that can hold up with the best of the best actors. That's what I look for. When I'm casting, I'm looking for something that can hold up in Hollywood, hold up in LA. And so if you have someone available that you're already thinking of and they're going to fit the part, and they are already a very good top level actor, then there's nothing wrong with doing that. However, what a lot of filmmakers will do is they'll cast people they already know from a comfort level, just for not having to get to know somebody else or not having to work with the unknown factor of a new actor. And what I would say is, unless the actors you have that you're going to what we call precast, unless you know exactly what they can do and they're going to elevate your project to the highest level it can be, hold an audition. If you have those people, though, I mean, by all means. I mean, we see that the big directors do that all the time. Ridley Scott works with Russell Crowe all the time. It's like the only one that works with Russell Crowe. Right. So you have these combinations that do work together. But again, it's because, Tom Hanks works with Ron Howard because they both have an expectation from each other that they both push each other to be the best. Right. So really, Lenny, that's what I would look at. I talked to this, in UCF, there's a tendency for them to just cast their friends simply because it's easy to do. And there's already a comfort level with your friends. But they also typically cast their friends that are not strong actors. And so their film ultimately suffers because of it, because we don't have that believability.
Right.
Yeah. And talking about believability, something that is important to understand, we're never trying to make anything realistic. That's a mistake that actors do. We use this word realism or realistic a lot when we're talking about performance. Never once are we ever trying to make anything realistic, because our films, our plays, our stories are not realistic. They're heightened. They're heightened forms of reality. So instead, we want to make them truthful, and we want to make them believable, and we want to make them digestible. Those are the three keys to directing into performance. Truthful, meaning, we might be having a bigger reaction than what a person might normally have. When I start thinking of realism, I pull back, right? Realism is boring. But when I start thinking of the hero's journey or what someone is overcoming, these are very truthful moments. And the more truthful we can make it, meaning very grounded, very, very vulnerable, outward focused. When I make it truthful, it becomes believable. And then digestible is an important thing too. That comes mostly in the edit, but making sure your actors are using their words, they're enunciating. That's also what I look for in the mark of a good actor. I can hear them and I can understand them. They're speaking clearly. They have strong diction. They have strong enunciation. And not to the point where it's taken anything away, but to the point where the audience needs to be able to hear your actors and understand what they're saying. Otherwise, we don't need to be saying it. So I even look for that. And that's what I call digestible, is I want to make sure that every moment of every scene, the audience is getting what they need out of it, because ultimately it's about your audience. It's not about the actors. It's not about you. It's not about anything. It's not about the writer. It's about, is your audience getting what they need out of the scene? Are they able to understand it and digest it? And so I look for that when I'm casting actors as well. And I'll actually work on that in a callback, typically. Typically, I'm slowing actors down. They tend to speak very fast when they get excited or emotional. It's like, no, okay, do that whole thing, but slow it way down. And just see how that sounds and see where I can get them to go, using the words and not just saying the words rapid fire, but really using the words to convey an idea, to really do something. Because when we slow it down and use our words, each word we inflect it differently, right? We use the words almost as tools to try to make a point. That's what you want the actors to do as well. For actors, you need to do that as well, especially in auditions. Slow it down, use your words. Yeah, Gary.
So going to the casting, you come from a director and actor standpoint, and I'm just the director part. So I actually prefer the online auditions where they
Yes.
send in the scenes. I can see the advantage to be in person, but my main focus is what's going to be like on screen. So
Yes.
the online ones are good. But what do you, from your point, is, I mean, what do you see for?
I think self-submission can be good for an initial audition, especially in film. I would be very strict in the guidelines of what I send out. I'd be strict in how you want it framed. I'd be strict in the eye line and all of those things. The one thing you lose from a self-submission is you lose the ability to try to direct them. So what you can do, if you're having people self-submit, the ones that you like, I would do auditions right here on Zoom. And I mean, this is an amazing platform. You can put people in a waiting room and bring them in one by one. You can even have another reader signed on to Zoom that they're reading with, so you can put yourself off camera and just observe. But it gives you the ability to direct performance, to see what their personality's like, and to just go a little bit deeper in that whole thing. So Zoom is given us just a wonderful, wonderful technological advantage, I think, in all of this. So you still don't have to actually get a room and get together and do it live. And even if you only did it as the callback, I would recommend doing that.
Well, it may, even for like a non-theater audition, I mean, would you still say in person?
What do you mean for?
Well, in audition for either theater or a digital, like a film.
No, I think for either. I mean, I think what this is providing us nowadays is, even for theater, I'll do initial auditions on Zoom. It gives me a wider net to cast. It gives more people the opportunity that can't fit it into their schedule or they can't make that work. So I can do live auditions on Zoom, or I can do submissions for the first audition, for just casting that wide net. And then for a callback, you could even do it on Zoom, especially now in COVID. For the callback, you can work with them longer. That's basically the thing. Is the initial audition is just, here's the short scene. I just want to see what your essence is like. For the callback, it's now I want to work with you.
I got you.
Yeah, I always think getting together live is always good, and you might want to do that, especially if you're doing a feature or something longer. You might want to do that before you actually decide to cast someone. But again, this gives us a tremendous advantage. There's things we can do over Zoom that we just couldn't do before. not even with Skype and some other things. There's too much of a delay in Skype. This really works. But again, I would have a live format that you would use in addition to the self submissions. Self submissions can be good. One of the things you might ask for is 2 different ways. Say, here, provide this scene to me, but give it to me in 2 different ways. Make two different choices on it, just so you can see that they have the ability to use words differently. They're not always the same thing. That's what we get as an actor. When we go to a live audition, we get to do a read, and then we get an adjustment, and then we get to do it again. And it's like, man, in a couple minutes, when I'm auditioning, in 4 minutes is my time frame, is when I have an actor come in, they read it once, I give them an adjustment, they read it again, and they're done. And I've made my evaluation in 4 minutes, but they've read it twice. So I'm also auditioning, can they take direction? Can they listen to what I'm saying, and can they incorporate it into their creative process?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, so there's a couple of ways you can do that, but I'm a big fan of Zoom. I really am. And, ultimately it's always better to get together in person. And once we can do that safely again, and freely, we can go back to that. But this really gives you the ability to cast so many more people by doing it on here, or again, self-submissions. Yeah. Anything else?
I have another question.
Yeah.
So in a post-COVID environment now, as a director, what are some precautions or things that you would do differently now that we have this new space that we're living in, working in as actors and as directors? What is something that you've found useful or that you've been using?
Well, getting used to wearing a mask is is something that I'm getting used to, and it just, what I found is that the more I wear it in the environment, the more I'm comfortable with it. I keep separation. I've shot some stuff recently with some actors, and I just maintain separation of the actors. With camera angles and lenses, you don't have to get actors as close together as you think you do, and you can use what's called forced perspective. So you can maintain 10 feet apart from actors and make them look like they're a couple feet apart in over the shoulder type shots. So I'm just learning how to be more creative with that. But to me, safety comes first. The safety comes first, and the sensitivity to it for who you're dealing with, I think, is very, very important. I have all my actors wear masks when they're not on camera. They take it off when they're on camera. I wear one behind the camera, or wherever I'm at there. And so I slow down the process a little bit too, to give us more safety. But that's really, I'm working very, very small right now. In the larger environments, Film Florida put out a document which discusses the entire guidelines for the industry. So that's a good document if you go on to filmflorida.org, to take a look at and read through and stay apprised on, because what they're doing in Atlanta and what they're doing here, it's pretty much a nationwide document. And what they're doing in California it's good practice to take on to your own sets. Nancy. Sure. Nancy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to that, because we've talked about this, and actually I found out about this. I know most of you on here probably know Kelly Weaver, but there's that Safe Sets International. If you go to their website, there's a 10-minute quiz on protocol for COVID-19, and then they give you a certification document that says you're now certified to work on a set. You know everything that needs to be done to keep actors, crew, everybody safe. And so it's a really good piece of information to have, and to see if the people you're working with are all fully knowledge in how to conduct themselves in a safe manner. So
yeah, it's great to have actors go through that course. It's great to have crew members go through the course, and it's just information on how to maintain safety on a set, and it's very good for everyone to go through. Nancy, do you have that website? Could you put it on the?
Yeah, it's called. I'll type it in.
Yeah, put it in the chat. Yeah, because we don't know where we're at yet, post-COVID. So we still have to maintain safety to the best of our ability. to avoid another shutdown later. But it can be done. It really, really can be done. We just have to work safely. I have this spray. It's a spray hand sanitizer that I use. That it's like a mist, and I can spray everything. I can spray my camera equipment. I can spray anything anyone touches. So I use a lot of that just to make sure everything's decontaminated. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Nancy, for putting that in there. Well, Lenny, do you have anything else?
No, if there are no other questions, just thank you so much for bringing your insight to everyone this evening.
Absolutely. I loved
Well-
it. Thank you all for taking your evening and spending it with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We hope to do more of these. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right, everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Have a
Have
good
a
night.
great-
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.